Hey, what's going on, everybody? Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone. I got a brand new video for you, ladies and gentlemen. But before I get started, like always, I appreciate you guys drop a like. And if you're new to the channel, first time here, never ever seen any of my NBA or NFL lineup advice videos, the only thing you need to do to be a part of the DFS Zone community is to become a subscriber. So please make sure you subscribe down below. Put on your bell icon. Make sure you put that on. This way you don't miss out on any of my NBA or NFL lineup advice videos when I post them. With that being said, today is Thursday, January the 3rd, 2019. We have a 3-game slate in association, and we're going to get right into it, man. Very, very nice games today. We got Toronto and San Antonio. We're going to have 2 players, pretty much 3 players, because Danny Green obviously used to play for San Antonio as well as Kawhi Leonard. So you got those 2 guys going up against their former organizations they play for. And then we have Mr. DeMar DeRozan, who used to be with Toronto, is now with San Antonio. He's going up and playing against his former teammates. So it's going to be very intriguing. I think that's a nice game tonight. Other than that, you got Denver at Sacramento, and you got Houston going into Golden State to play the Golden State Warriors without no Chris Paul. I mean, a big night for Mr. James Harden. He's going to need to really ball his butt off with all the weapons Golden State have and how well Golden State usually plays at home. So that's going to be an interesting game. So again, couple of tips before I get started with some of the plays. First things first, also, normally for 3-game slates, if you've been here already, you know that normally on a 3-game slate, 4-game slate, I'd rather just tell you what players I'm looking at, and then I throw them into the fantasy cruncher and let the fantasy cruncher crunch it out and let us know more or less the percentages, so on and so forth. I know more or less going into it about whom is going to be really up there at the top, but I like to still go through the crunch and see what mid-tier plays pop in there, and it gives us the percentages. And we also have some lineups that I can share with you guys, and you guys can play at your own risk. If you so choose to play those lineups, you can, so you'll be able to see some of those. But getting back to the games again, I mean, a couple of strategies today. I mean, if you're playing multiple lineups, more than not, like I play some GPPs, I'm going to play about 16 to 20 on norm. I normally do 16 to 20 GPP lineups, especially with the quarter games. So if you do the quarter games, then I would say you definitely should sprinkle in a little bit of a couple of higher end players. You may want to throw in there maybe James Harden, who is very, very expensive today. Granted, Fanduel does that. You know, it's priced up on these smaller slates, but he's going to be up there at a high price at $13K. So you may want to sprinkle him in a couple of lineups. You might not go Harden. I would not advise going with Harden at $13,000 if you're only making 1 or 2 lineups. And for instance, you're playing the 100K. This one here, which is $9 a buy-in to pretty much get into this tournament. If you're playing a GPP here, you really don't want to target too much Mr. James Harden if you can, especially if you're only doing one lineup. The advice there is obviously get your 5 or 6 top players that you really, really, really love. You really think they have their best chance to make your core lineup, and then build around those guys with the rest of your budget. Other than that, if you're playing multiple lineups, especially quarter ones, there you can definitely spurge. Everybody's is available. Everybody's in play, so to speak. And at the same time, you can mix and match, and you can put a couple, or you can do Harden in 2 or 3 lineups. You can say, well, I'm going to go Kawhi Leonard and maybe even Durant in another lineup, and then basically build your lineups around those guys. But that's only if you're playing the smaller GPPs, and only if you're doing multiple lineups. Do not advise if you only got a few bucks and you want to play just 1 or 2 lineups to go in that format. You basically should try to get your core 5 or 6 and play those 5 or 6. Another strategy that I would use on a 3-game slate like this, especially when the games all look intriguing, is you may want to game stack in multiple lineups, one each game. Let's put it that way. Each game should be game stacked if you're playing multiple lineups. You stack up 5 to 6 players from the Houston Golden State game. Try to get 5 or 6 out of the Denver Sacramento game, and do the same as well for Toronto San Antonio. That's just another strategy you can go by. And another thing that I've told you here in the past is always cover your you-know-what by basically reversing those plays. So if you're playing multiple lineups and you're going to use 1 game stack per game, make sure that you reverse those. Like if you have 3 that you favor in the Toronto game and you have only 2 for San Antonio, make sure you reverse that and play 3 San Antonio, maybe even 4, and then 1 or 2 from Toronto. Just mix and match and turn it around, because sometimes the ones you didn't play are the ones that end up coming off. And then sometimes you're focusing more on 4 players out of Toronto and just 2 for San Antonio, sort of, you know, just for an example, and 4 key players from San Antonio from San Antonio came off better off than the 4 you chose for Toronto. Then you don't want to you don't want to be saying to yourself, oh man, only if I would have just reversed that. So when you're playing multiple lineups and you're playing short slates like this, I usually use that strategy just to help myself be able to cover my rear end. So consider that as something that you should do as well. Other than that, I think today, it's not so much of a, studs and scrubs type of format at all. I think it's just that strictly GPP. I think you definitely try to get the best possible players that have that upside in a GPP format, and then just basically go with that. And you can actually even go with a more balanced lineup because there's enough players to go with a 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 range lineup, so you can do that as well. All right. Let's get right into it so we can go through this quickly. At point guard today, you got Steph Curry, you got De'Aaron Fox. You guys all know how much I love De'Aaron Fox. I will have some exposure to him. Don't know for sure if I'm going to have exposure to Curry, but in the actual fantasy cruncher, I'm going to throw him into the player pool because it's somebody you can't really eliminate. You got to at least consider him at 10,400. It's a hefty price tag. You need 52 from Steph Curry. De'Aaron Fox, and another thing also is when you look at Steph Curry at 10,004 and you need 52 to meet value, can he get you 52? Yeah, but he can also give you a dud, get you a 40, maybe 35, 40, which I think is probably his bottom level as far as fantasy points. I don't think he will go lower than 35 if he had a bad night, but he could get you 40, possibly 45. I don't know if he can get you 52, but and then you go and you think about De'Aaron Fox, he could only get you 25 as well, but he's capable of getting you that 50, 52 as well at 8,700. It's a different price tag, so sometimes you got to look at it that way as well. Same thing with Jamal Murray here. So I'm basically coming down. I will have exposure to Fox more than Curry simply because of his price tag and knowing that for a fact that there's the possibility that he could have a much better game than Curry. At his price tag, I'm going to be saving, $1,700 or so. So it's quite a bit of money. Kyle Lowry is a game time decision. He's back, but again, play at your own risk if you want to play Kyle Lowry. I mean, Kyle Lowry is coming back from a back injury. He may be 100% and ready to go, but I'm not willing to take a risk in playing him in a 3-game slate when there's other options. So I would advise, definitely fade him. If he doesn't play, obviously, then you got to look at Fred VanVleet as a possible play. I will throw Fred VanVleet in the actual player pool, but I think my favorite play for me because of GPP purposes is Jamal Murray. $8,000. You only need 40 from him, and we know he has 50, 60 point upside. And he's been playing pretty well as of late, and the minutes are there. I mean, 32, 39, and 40 over the last 3 games. He had a 46-point game and a 31-point game as of late. He did put up 63 and 41 respectively. Actually, this 63-point game, I gave you guys him as my best play that day, and he actually came up with a bigger game than I thought he would. Was hoping for him to get 45, 50, and he put up a 63 spot. So today, the same thing. I will love him just to meet value. Get me 45, 50. It would be great for GPP. If he gets me more than 50, fantastic. That's exactly why we want him in our lineup. So let's go over to the cruncher. And as you can see, I already have those guys checked off, the guys that I'm looking at. But let's look at Jamal Murray. He's going up against Sacramento. Sacramento is 29th against point guards. But as you can see, his numbers are there. Minutes are there. Usage rate has been really through the roof. My only concern is that Gary Harris is back. So keep that in mind that Gary Harris is back. He's been taking, in these few games here, he's been taking 19, 27, 24 shots. He's not going to get as many shots in this particular game, I don't think. Now with Gary Harris back, and Harris was pretty much averaging about 11, 12 shots a game before he got injured. And his shots are going to start coming. So it's going to be definitely a usage and a shot selection situation where Mr. Murray is going to probably get less shots now that Mr. Gary Harris is back. So keep that in consideration, but I still do like him here. Nonetheless, he's still going to get more than enough shots, in my opinion. And then, of course, he takes a ton of threes, about 7 or 8 per get to the free throw line, and he can hit you some free throws, and he'll get you some rebounds and some assists, and he gets a couple of defensive plays. Been a little concerned with the turnovers. I do like the fact that he has definitely improved in personal fouls. I mean, last year he was in the personal foul situations quite a bit throughout the year in several games. This year, as you can see, he's been pretty clean for a while. Hasn't really been in that 5 personal foul range over the last 10, 15 games, it looks like. So he's doing very well there. Do like him a whole lot. He did play against Sacramento, put up a 29 spot back in October the 23rd. That was a long while ago. And on top of that, he put a 30 and 25 and 20 in the last 3 games against them last year. Not huge numbers, but I do like the factors that he's going against this team. They're 29th. They're a fast-paced team. We know Denver definitely likes to slow the game down. They're one of the better defending tems. So I am still favoring the Jamal Murray, and that half-court set would definitely be more effective. Again, Sacramento 29th in defending. point guards, and they've been giving up 39, pretty much 39.4, almost 40 fantasy points per game as of late. They did give up 55 and 22 to Ball and 39 to Mr. Lillard, and Tim Frazier put up 34 against them as well. So Jamal Murray's in play, and of course I threw in there the San Antonio guards because I really think Derek White and Mr. Baron Forbes are definitely good plays here, especially Forbes at 4,400. You got to have some exposure to him at 4,400. He's been starting, he's been playing, he's getting more than enough minutes. If you look at his numbers, look at the minutes, 32, pretty much 30 or better over the last 4 games. He's been in double-digit scoring. He would love to see him be more of a defender, but he's been getting some steals. I think Derek White has been a little bit more active defensively. That's why he gets a little bit better numbers, and that's why his price tag is a little higher. But I'm willing to take more of a risk on him because of the savings. Let's get 4,400 from him. You only need 22, and he is what? Let me see. How much is he on DK? On DK, I think he's even cheaper. Yeah, Forbes, he's 4,400 there as well. So 4,400 in both platforms. Obviously, he's a much better play on FanDuel. So Forbes is in play as well as Derek White. So I threw them in the player pool. All right, those are the guys that I'm looking at there. Let's go over to shooting guard. At shooting guard, you got James Harden at the top, DeMar DeRozan. These guys definitely are in play. Harden will probably be in my 25-cent games, which I do 16 to 20 like I mentioned. If you're doing multiple lineups, definitely sprinkle in Harden in 1 or 2 lineups. But his price tag is very high. You need about 65, 66 to meet value here. That's a big number when he's averaging 55. Granted, he's capable of doing that, but again, he hasn't been able to do that against Golden State. I mean, he really hasn't. We go over and take a quick look at him. As you can see, his numbers are great here, but when you look at Golden State, 40 in his last game earlier this year on the 15th. Didn't shoot particularly well in that game, but got more than enough shots. He's going to take a ton again tonight. If the shots are going down, he's going to put up 50. He's going to put up 60 with no problem. But when the shots are not going down, depending on how well it's being defended, that could be the reason why he didn't shoot particularly well here in this game, even though he got a win. You know, you got to win, play only 32 minutes. Granted, he put 58 and 53, but like I said before, not huge numbers against Golden State. So, again, keep that in mind. He could probably get you 50, and my concern with that is that he gets me 50 and DeMar DeRozan could get me 50 and he's 8,800. So it's this is what you got to look at. So I look at those numbers and sometimes I say to myself, well, you can see from the averages 55 and 41, but 8,800 and 13,000, that's like nearly $4,300, $4,500 more. You know, that's quite a bit of money. So definitely keep that in mind. But Harden should be someone that if you're doing multiple lineups, you sprinkle them in 1 or 2 lineups. I have no problem with that. But if you're making a core 5 or 6 plays for 1 or 2 lineups, especially in a 100K event like this one, if you're only doing 1 line or 2 lines, then you got to just go with a core 5 or 6. I don't think he should be one that you should have in that lineup. But again, that's my opinion. All right, so James Harden is someone in play, but too high here. I do like DeMar DeRozan going up against his former organization. He is obviously the one that really wanted to stay with Toronto and got traded. So I think that DeMar DeRozan is going to come out and play. You know, DeRozan's in a great spot. 3 out of his last 5 games, he's been putting up 52 or better. He's averaging 41 or 42, 23.6 rebounds, 6 assists, pretty much a balanced resume all the way across the floor. 41 fantasy points. At 8,800, you need 44. You need 44 or so to meet value. And on DK, he's 7,800. You only need 38 to meet value over there, which is below his average. So he's an excellent play on DraftKings if you wanted to play him there. And he has 60-point upside, and he's done 52 to 60 in 3 out of the last 5 games. Like I mentioned, the minutes are there, 35 or better. So DeRozan is definitely someone that I am considering highly today. Okay, so he'll be in the player pool. As you can see, he's already been checked off. The minutes are there. The usage rate is there. He's going to get more than enough shots. He's a pretty good free throw shooter. He gets to the foul line, and he brings some rebounding and assists. As you can see, sometimes he can get you a bunch of them. He does turn over the ball a little bit, but he makes up for his defense. Look at this, 1, 4, 5, 2, 1. Pretty much 1 or 2 steals a game pretty much over the last 5 or 6 games, and he's capable of getting you some blocks. He's had 4 in his last 6 games. So DeMar DeRozan is definitely someone to consider. And when you come here and granted, there's no need to go and see if he has played against his former team because he has not. So there ain't going to be no stat line there. We'll see today how that pans out. But Toronto coming in here 19th in defending shooting guards. They've been allowing only 24 fantasy points per game to shooting guards. They did allow 31 in the last game to Donovan Mitchell, and pretty much has held everybody else down because that's Danny Green. Danny Green going up against his former organization as well, and Danny Green has been really, really good at defending shooting guards this year. So definitely a tough spot for DeMar DeRozan, definitely a tough game for matchup for Danny Green as well. But, you got to have at least some sort of exposure to DeMar DeRozan, no doubt about it. Other than DeMar DeRozan, as you can see, I did check off Klay Thompson, Buddy Hield, and Bogdanovich. I do love Bogdanovich a whole lot in this matchup, even though Denver is second in defending shooting guards. I do like Bogdanovich here. He's a little more balanced as far as his stat line over Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield seems to be more of a guy that scores more and doesn't really do a whole lot of the other things, but Bogdanovich is a little bit better there. I do like Malik Beasley a whole lot here against Sacramento. You got to consider Iguodala, and not high on Monty Morris. I like Beasley a little bit more, but Monty Morris is hidden here as well, and we threw in Danny Green. You got to have Austin Rivers in your lineup. Obviously, he's been getting the minutes in Houston, so he's definitely someone to consider. And, of course, if there's no Kyle Lowry, you got to consider Dylan Wright getting some minutes as well, all right? Let's go over to our small forward. At small forward, we got at the top Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant. I'm going to have exposure to both. And this particular 100K, I'm still haven't decided who I'm going to go with. I may be leaning more to Kevin Durant because he is at home and going up against Houston. But then again, you got to, if I do a second lineup here, I may consider making another lineup and having Kawhi Leonard in it. My only concerns are Kawhi Leonard is at 10,003. He doesn't hit 50 that consistently, as opposed to maybe Durant, who's capable of getting 50 and maybe even 60 or better, more so in a surprise moment as far as a GPP, whereas Kawhi Leonard doesn't quite get that often. But again, either one of the guys today in their matchups, Kawhi Leonard going up against his former mates, even though he left there, he wasn't happy there. He got his wish. He got traded. So, but nonetheless, he is still going up against his former organization. So Kawhi Leonard, definitely someone to consider. You have to have some exposure to him. Leonard coming in here 46 to 47, averaging 46, 47 fantasy points per game, 27, 8, and 3. 10,003, you pretty much need 51, 52 is a big number for him. As you can see, he did get 52 pretty much in his last game against Utah. But as you see down the list, his last time he put 50 was back down here on December the 19th, where he put up 59 against Indiana. So a little bit of a concern there. If his bottom number fantasy-wise is 31, 35, that definitely is not that good. Definitely hurts you. So he is definitely a good GPP play because at 10, you're hoping he'll get 60. He's gotten to 60 one time before. This is pretty much close to 60. And you would figure that because of the matchup, because of the whole meaning of the game going up against his former team organization, you would probably figure he'll get pumped up. They'll give him the ball a little bit more, especially if he's shooting well. Granted, his last game put up 45, his best performance ever, and he only put up 51 fantasy points. So that is definitely a bummer. So this is why I probably will be leaning more towards Kevin Durant. But he is someone to consider. San Antonio's 18th in defending small forwards. As you can see here, 18th in defending small forwards, and they have been allowing 26.2 fantasy points per game. They did give up 30 to Tatum, 29 to Tavares Harris, 44 to Mr. Juancho Hernan-Gomez, and 42 to Robert Covington over the last 4 games. And again, like I said, I do like Kevin Durant, even though Houston is ranked second in defending small forwards. Durant, 3 out of his last 5 games, 41 plus, and he's had playing 33 minutes or better in that stretch. Versus Houston, second defending small forwards, they allowed 23 fantasy points per game. In the last game, they gave up Kyle Anderson a 41. Obviously, if Kyle Anderson can get 41 on a good night, Kevin Durant should be able to get at least 50. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it's either one of the two. I think that if you're paying up in the small forward spot, you're going to have to consider any one of those two guys. Other than that, Rudy Gay is a game-time decision. If he's out, you definitely got to consider Davis Bertans. You got to. Davis Bertans will be in play at 4,000 if there's no Rudy Gay. If Rudy Gay's in play, he could be someone to have at 5,700. You need 26 fantasy points to meet value, and that's pretty much below his average. So we know he may get somewhere near his average. Juancho Hernan-Gomez is probably going to be hurt a little bit now because Gary Harris is back, as well as Paul Millsap is back. So I do like Gary Harris here. You definitely going to have some exposure to him. Granted, he just came back. He only played 19 minutes. If he gets 25 or better here, I'll be happy with 25 minutes or better, and he could get me possibly 25 to 30 fantasy points at 4,800. Not even a problem. You only need 24 there to meet value, and I think he can get 24 or better in this matchup easily if he plays 25 or better minutes. And we know he has 40-point upside. So Gary Harris is definitely someone to consider. Daniel House House is someone we're going to consider. So he's in the player pool. Davis Bertans as well. And, of course, I also will have exposure to the player pool with Gerald Green. I think he's a fine play. And we'll throw in there OG Anunoby as well. We go to power forward. At power forward, you got LaMarcus Aldridge at the top at 9,000. You need 45 to me value. He's been playing great as of late, but I'm a little concerned against Toronto because you got to deal with Siakam. You got to deal with Ibaka. These guys are not, they're pretty decent defenders, especially Siakam. But he's somebody you just in a small slate like this, you just got to have some sort of consideration for Aldridge in a lineup. But again, as a core play, it's entirely up to you if you want to play him. If you're doing one-on-one lineup, he might not be the one to go with when you got Siakam was playing just as good, and he's $2,000 cheaper, and he has the ability to possibly get you 40 to 45 and smash value, where at 45 here, Aldridge has been at a point where he has been, as you can see, his average is normally 37, even though he's been smashing as of late. He can have a day today where he's back to his average of 34, 35, 36 fantasy points per game, and that's definitely going to be below his price tag. So that's a little bit of a concern there. So I like Pascal Siakam, and I do love Draymond Green. Those are my top two here at power forward for today. Other than that, I do love Paul Millsap too at 6,200. You cannot pass up Paul Millsap at 6,200. You only need 31 there. But Siakam, again, 5 out of his last 7 games has been pretty solid. So we're going to go back to the top. And as you can see that, pretty much 5 out of his last, that's what I have. 5 out of his last 7 games, 36 plus. And he's been pretty much trending slightly upward because his average is 30. All right. So, and the minutes are there. We're going to get that from Siakam. Minutes are there. Aldridge, the same thing. Draymond Green. So, hold on, back to Pascal. Trying to go quickly here because I'm trying to get done. 40 and 37, 32 and 34 over the last 2 games. The usage rate has been good. He's been getting 12 to 15 shots, taking a few threes. He gets to the free throw line. He does it all, man. He gets you some rebounds. Not going to get a ton of assists, but he brings the defense, which he has not done in 3 straight games. He normally gets you at least a block and a steal here and there. I think he has an excellent opportunity here to do that today. Pascal Siakam is definitely in play. They're going up against San Antonio. They're 3rd in defending power forwards. And they have been allowing 30.5 as of late in the last 5 games, 30.5 fantasy points per game. They did give up 26 to Marcus Morris. They gave 33 to Gallo and 40 to Jokic when Mr. Plumlee played center a couple of games ago. Jokic played the 4 for Denver. And so he is definitely in play. And as you can see, I have Draymond Green checked off as well. Draymond is definitely an excellent play here, 50-point upside. You cannot pass up the opportunity there. He did have a 53 spot and a 53 spot twice last year in the games versus Houston. Only put up an 11 spot in the one game this year on November 15th, but he only played 24 minutes. And that was a game that they lost pretty bad. So, he really was not even a factor in this game. And as you can see, he had 3 personal fouls. And that means he was already sitting down way before. He's playing a lot better right now. He's definitely in a great spot. So he's definitely someone to consider. 5 out of his last 7 games, 29 plus and over 32 minutes a game. He's versus Houston. They're 12th in defending power forwards. They have given up 30.8 fantasy points per game, so nearly 31 fantasy points. They did give up 48 to Anthony Davis, which was a good performance by Houston because Anthony Davis, 48, is a low number for him. Marcus Morris put up 34 and Jeremy Grant put up 40. So again, if Jeremy Grant and Marcus Morris could get 35 to 40, I think Draymond Green can get us here at this price tag. 6,900, man. You only really need 34 from him. And on DK, he's 5,900, folks. 5,900 on DK. Only need 29 there to meet value. So I definitely think he is. Those two are definitely guys you got to consider. And then you got to consider also Paul Millsap at 6,200. You need 31. Yeah, 35 and 10 in his last 2 games from coming back. Went from 14 minutes to 22. He might be jumping up to 25 to as much as 28 minutes today. So Millsap is in play. And I also checked off Jonas Jerebko as a possible other play as center. It's just these 2 are the top 2 guys in the top that I like. I like Jokic, and I definitely like Capella. Neither one has had outstanding games against their opposition, but I think they're, both of them on the road. Tough matchups, especially for Capella going into Golden State. But Golden State is very vulnerable up there, so you got to consider Capella. You could go all the way down and save $1,000 and go to Willie Cauley-Stein against Denver. Denver has even though Jokic is a pretty decent defender, he has had issues defending other centers and other people, especially when he was the 4. Plumlee was playing center, so definitely those centers were definitely racking up some fantasy points on Plumlee, and that's one of the reasons why their statistics as far as fantasy point totals are high. But Jokic in play, man, he's been on fire, 10,300, and he pretty much 51. It's a big number for him, but he has put 54 and 65. But I believe even last year I told you guys, this guy, if he plays enough minutes and he plays well and he's able to get not only score but get rebounds and assists, he's going to be very explosive. He's going to put up a lot of fantasy points. And then the top thing also is that he's able to get blocks and steals. So he's very active with his feet and hands on the defensive end. And this is where he is, he excels at. So at 10,003 is a big number, but he is capable of getting us near there. So I think he is definitely someone you could consider. If you're going to want to save a ton of money here, there's no doubt you should definitely consider Capella. And if you want to go even further down, you could go as low as Willie Cauley-Stein here today. There's not a whole lot to pick from the center spot today. I don't like anybody that's at the bottom as far as savings are concerned. Plumlee's going to get definitely he's going to get less minutes now with Millsap back, and as well as Gary Harris back. So that's definitely a declining time now for Mason Plumlee. So again, Capella and Jokic are the best possible plays. And like I said, Capella 8,600. You only need 43 from him there. It is a big number for Capella. He's averaging 40, but he is capable of getting you near 40, and he's capable of getting you 50 or better. So GPP play, he has the upside. And then you have him at 6,900 on DK. That is a bargain. 6,900. 34 fantasy points is all you need for Capella there, and he's averaging 40 right now. On DK, I will be making a couple of lineups today, and Mr. Capella will be penciled in. Granted, Capella has not had any great success at all with the opposition. Neither one of these guys. If we look here and we look at his game log versus Golden State, as you can see, it's all red. He only had a 35 spot in a playoff game last year, and this year he's played a 30-minute game in a win, which was a blowout win for them on November 15. He put up 26.5. He only had one personal foul. It's just, for whatever reason, it's just not any big numbers at all. So, again, that's the deal, man. That is the deal. So, Clint Capella. All right, so let's go in. Let's punch this in. These are the guys. As you can see, I already have them all checked off. This is the whole player pool. The player pool started with 57. It is down only to 33. And we're going to make, I'm going to do 50 lineups here real quick. Give you guys a couple of lineups, see what the percentages are on per position, and then we'll wrap it up. Get Fantasy Cruncher almost done here. Okay, it's done. And at the top, we got LaMarcus Aldridge as 100%. He's in every one of the 50 lineups. Davis Bertans, 86%. You got Jerebko at 74%. James Harden, 66%. Murray, 66%. Forbes, 66%. Beasley, 64%. Cauley-Stein, 62%. Fox, 56%. Hernan Gomez, 46%. Austin Rivers, 32%. Gerald Green, and it goes on and on. Let's go by position here. At point guard, the top point guard is Jamal Murray, which is my top guy for me today, 66%. Forbes is second. Fox is third at 56%. And then Van Fleet at 12%. Shooting guard, Harden's at the top at 66%. Then we got Malik Beasley at 64%. He's in 32 out of the 50 lineups. Austin Rivers at 32% is third. DeMar DeRozan, 28%. I'm going to still ride him in a few lineups. But I do like Malik Beasley as well. And James Harden, obviously, you got to at least have some exposure. Monty Morris, 8%. And Klay Thompson, 2%. Small forward, you got Bertans, 86%. And again, he is definitely someone to consider if there's no Rudy Gay. It's just hands down. I'll be having some exposure to him if Rudy Gay is definitely out. Well, Juancho Hernan Gomez, surprisingly 46%, but Juancho's going to take a hit in minutes. I really truly believe that. So he's someone that I'm not going to consider. Gerald Green, 32%, OG 20%. Daniel House, 10%. Gary Harris, only 4%, but I'm going to be one of those 4% that might want to consider having him there because I think that he has too much of an upside. If he plays 25 minutes or better, I won't want to not have him in one of my lineups. Then you got Aldridge at power forward, Jerebko, 74%, Draymond Green, 16%, Millsap, 6%, and Siakam, 4%. And at center, Willie Cauley-Stein is the top center at 62% here, so they're projecting him to have the better fantasy point totals. Jokic, 22%, Looney, at 10%, and then Capella at 6%. So go figure, And then here's a couple of lineups here for you guys to see. First lineup here has Murray, Forbes, Harden, Beasley, Hernan Gomez, which I think Hernan Gomez is going to take a hit here. So I will come back here. That's the beauty of the Fantasy Cruncher. You can cross him out and take him out of there and replace him with someone else. Davis Bertans, LaMarcus Aldridge, Jonas Jerebko, and then Willie Cauley-Stein. Then you got Fox, Murray, DeRozan, Beasley, Hernan Gomez, Bertans, Aldridge, Jerebko, and Stein. This third lineup, he has Murray, Forbes, Harden, Rivers, Bertans, Green, Aldridge, Jerebko, and Jokic. That one doesn't look too bad. You got Jokic in there as well as Aldridge and as well as Harden and Jamal Murray. So there's a pretty decent 4 core players there if you want to look at it that way. You got Fox in this next lineup with Forbes, Harden, Beasley, House, Bertans, Aldridge, Jerebko, and Stein. The next one has Fox, Forbes, Harden, Beasley, Harris, Bertans, Aldridge, Jerebko, Stein. And the next one here is Murray, Forbes, DeRozan, Beasley, Bertans, Green, Aldridge, Green, and Jokic. And I'm just going to stroll through here. And when, as you watch the video, if you want to take a look at these, you can pause it and take a look. I'll give it a second each. And then basically, I'm going to shut it down right there because then that'll be a lengthy video. Okay, so you got a couple lineups there. If you want to use them. And, again, I don't use a whole lot of the lineups. If I saw one that I like already, so I think I will have exposure to 1 or 2 already. But I pull out 50 or 100 depending on the slate, and I don't necessarily play them all. I don't play big money on here. If I play, like I said before, if you're following me, I play maybe $30 at a time a night. Sometimes maybe as high as 40 depending on the slate. But I'm not throwing in here hundreds of dollars. Maybe one day I get to those where the big sharks at that have a couple of $1,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 to play with. They don't have to pay some bills or something like that at home. Maybe that will be something I'll do, is play a little bit more lines. And that's pretty much it, man. I gave you guys a bunch there. That's like 19 or 20 there that I strolled down through. So, I mean, they're pretty much, you already got the idea of who is more than likely in play. That's pretty much it, man. Drop a like on the video. I appreciate it. Other than that, if you haven't become a subscriber yet, please do so down below. I will I will have an NFL playoff for the wild card weekend. I will have a video. I know if any of you guys have been following me for NFL, I haven't done an NFL video in about 3 weeks. But I will be doing them over the playoffs now. I've been just so consumed with the holiday and so on and so forth, and getting NBA videos out. It has been really taxing. So, but I will get back on the NFL as that as well. Other than that, I'll see you guys again for tomorrow's video, man. Wish you guys a lot of luck and have a great day.